let's jump right into this interactive explainer. Today, we're going to test your lateral thinking with 20 of the absolute hardest riddles from brainquizer. Now, if you think riddles are just, child's play, prepare to be humbled. These aren't just simple little jokes. They're genuine tests of your cognitive flexibility. So if you love stretching those mental muscles and figuring out clever wordplay, you're in the exact right place. We're going to run through this together, and I want you actively guessing as we go. Sound good? So, according to our source, an incredible 99% of people fail to solve all 20 of these correctly on their first try. I mean, that is a massive failure rate. But if you can unlock these, your lateral thinking is genuinely top tier. So grab a mental scorecard, keep track of your correct guesses, and let's see just how sharp your problem-solving skills really are today. Are you ready to see if you belong in that top 1%? Let's do it.
Round 1, Everyday Illusions.
Okay, here's your first challenge. Think about this one really carefully. What can you never eat for breakfast? Now, don't overthink the nutritional value of foods here. We aren't talking about something being like too spicy or too sweet. Think about the structure of your day. Actually, think about the very definition of the words we use to describe our meals. I'll give you just a couple of seconds to lock it in.
Did you get it? The answer is dinner. Fun fact, the word breakfast literally means to break your fast from the night before. You physically cannot break a morning fast with an evening meal. Go ahead and give yourself a point if you got that one. It's a fun little trick that forces you to separate the actual physical act of eating food from the temporal definition of the meal itself.
All right, now check out these 3 riddles. They use incredibly common words, but they're laying a total trap for your brain. Take a few seconds to guess all 3. First, what has legs but can't stand up? Next, what has no life but can die? And finally, what kind of coat can only be put on when wet? Your initial instinct is going to pull you toward biology and nature, but I want you to fight that instinct. Look at the literal text. Got your guesses ready? Let's reveal the answers.
The answers are pants, a battery, and paint. See, we use personification every single day without even realizing it. We give inanimate objects human anatomy, like the legs of pants. We give them biological life cycles, like a battery dying when it simply loses a charge. And we use clothing metaphors, like putting a coat of paint on a wall. It just goes to show our language is deeply poetic and metaphorical, even when we're just talking about mundane household items.
Round 2, Anatomy and Elements. All right, let's see if you can solve riddle number 8. Read this one carefully and try to separate the literal from the figurative. What has a tongue but cannot speak? Look down, look around your room. What has a tongue but cannot speak? It's something you likely use every single day, maybe even right at this very moment. Think about protective layers. If you guessed a shoe, you are absolutely crushing it. The tongue of a shoe protects your foot, rather than helping you speak. It's really fascinating because when shoemakers centuries ago needed a name for that flexible strip of leather, they just used the closest anatomical visual match they could think of. And now, centuries later, it's prime real estate for a great brain teaser. Let's rapidly fire off 3 more involving elements and actions. The first, what can you catch from someone else but never throw back? The second, what goes up and never asks questions? And the third, what kind of cup stays full even when empty? The first is about a contagious action. The second completely defies gravity. And the third? Well, the third requires some serious out-of-the-box auditory thinking. 5 seconds to lock in all 3 of your guesses. Go. And time. The answers are a yawn, smoke, and a hiccup. You catch a contagious yawn from a friend across the room. Smoke physically rises upward, completely indifferent to the world around it, and a hiccup is obviously not a physical vessel at all. If you got the hiccup one right, give yourself a massive pat on the back. Auditory misdirection, where a word sounds exactly like an object but actually means something entirely different, is notoriously one of the hardest types of riddles for the human brain to crack. Round 3, the intangibles.
Okay, this was the very first riddle on the brainquizer's list, and it requires you to think entirely outside the physical realm. What can you hold without ever touching it? If you're picturing your hands right now, you're already heading down the wrong path. Think abstract. Think social. What's something you share with another person?
You hold a conversation. This beautifully proves how we use physical verbs for completely non-physical actions. It's a psychological phenomenon called embodied cognition. We literally process abstract thoughts using spatial and physical metaphors. We hold conversations, we catch feelings, we drop hints. Our entire vocabulary is deeply rooted in physical action, even when the concept is completely invisible to the eye. Moving right along to riddle number 11. What kind of bow cannot be tied? Think way beyond the ribbons on a birthday present or the shoelaces on your favorite sneakers. Think much, much bigger and look up. It's a rainbow. Here's a fun fact. The word bow in rainbow originally comes from Old English, referring to any curved arch in architecture or nature, not just the knot you tie with string. But our modern brains immediately jump to shoelaces because of the homophone. It perfectly showcases how homophones can send our brains down the completely wrong path. Let's look at these next two riddles side by side. They both build on positional logic. First, what kind of table has no legs? And second, what gets lost every time you stand up? The first one plays with the compound word again, while the second is a brilliant observation of human posture. Lock your guesses in. What table has no legs, and what vanishes the moment you stand? The answers are a timetable and your lap. A timetable organizes data on a spreadsheet, so it certainly doesn't need wooden legs to stand up. And your lap is one of those weird physical spaces that's entirely dependent on you sitting down. The second you stand, poof, it vanishes. It literally ceases to exist the moment you change your posture. Pretty wild to think about, right? The final gauntlet. All right, you've made it this far, but this is where the pressure really turns up. I'm going to throw these at you fast. Step 1, can't talk but loves to tell stories. Step 2, goes from house to house but never moves. Step 3, has an eye at the center but cannot see. And step 4, what can you open but never close? Take 10 seconds right now to lock in all 4. Think about everyday items, weather patterns, and breakfast foods. Let's see how you did. The answers are a book, a street, a storm, and an egg. A book tells stories purely through printed text. A street connects houses while staying perfectly still on the ground. A storm's chaotic center is notoriously called an eye, completely devoid of sight, and you can crack an egg open to cook it, but you can certainly never put it back together again. Here we are, the absolute final 4, racing against the clock. 1 second, what starts tall and ends short? 2 seconds, what has feet but never walks? 3 seconds, what makes music without a voice? 4 seconds, what has a lock but no door? This is it. Lock your final answers in. 3 seconds left, 2, 1. The final answers are a melting candle, a ruler, which literally measures feet, a guitar making music with strings, and hair, which definitely doesn't require a key. A candle literally burns its hideaway to nothing. A ruler contains the mathematical measurement of feet, guitars rely on acoustics rather than vocal cords, and your hair flows freely without hinges. If you got all 4 of those under pressure, your brain is firing on all cylinders today for sure. So, the big question, did you beat the 99% failure rate? Tally up your final score and let us know how you did. And more importantly, which friend or family member are you going to test this on next? Because lateral thinking is a muscle, and working through an explainer like this is the absolute best way to exercise it. It makes you realize just how beautifully complex, poetic, and sometimes downright tricky our everyday language really is. Keep challenging your brain, stay curious, and hey, what else are you looking at right now that isn't exactly what it seems?